and welcome to the Natural View. I'm Maggie Jacqua. I'm the content director of Whole Foods Magazine, and I'm here with my co-host, Todd Paulay of 24 Stories Marketing. Hey, Todd.
Hi, Maggie. How are you?
I'm good. And today we have a special episode of the Natural View where we're going to take a deep dive into safety. We're going to look at quality control and the importance of transparency in the natural products space. Our special guest is Katie Banaszewski. She is the Senior Director of Quality at Now Foods. Welcome, Katie.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, Katie. Good to see you.
Hi. You here. There's so much exciting stuff going on at Now Foods, really kind of leading the way in this quality control, in industry self-policing, so many great initiatives going on. So we're going to explore some of that. But I want to start just kind of stepping back and taking a look at the practices at Now Foods, your commitment to in-house testing, your cutting edge technology. Can you kind of just walk us through what you guys do there kind of overall, the testing instruments, you have specialists on staff. Talk to us about some of the things that you do to help ensure quality and safety.
Gosh, where do I start? I can confidently say that Now Foods operates one of the most advanced supplement testing lab in the industry. Our labs feature one of the most cutting edge analytical technologies. For example, Orbi-traps and time-of-flight mass spectrometers, which are designated for very low-level contaminant testing. I think we have a couple of dozen of high-performance liquid chromatographs and gas chromatographs for potency and purity testing. Our labs are also equipped in tandem mass spectrometers, both LC and GC, specifically designated for pesticide residue testing. What else? We do have a couple of ICP mass specs specific for detecting and quantitating heavy metals and minerals, HPTLC and FTIR instruments for raw material testing and identity. And we also utilize DNA-based techniques specific for microbial contamination and probiotic identification. We also have a team of method development scientists responsible for development, validation, and transfer of methods which are fit for purpose, specific for dietary ingredients and finished product testing. So to sum it up, our team of chemists, microbiologists, and method development scientists, as well as the regulatory specialists, they ensure all of our products meet the highest quality standards and will go beyond regulatory requirements to safeguard our consumer trust.
Wow, that's a whole lot, and I have to say, having spent time in the Now labs, it really is that much. When you walk through, it's so impressive to see. And I'm wondering, there's obviously, Kay, there's a lot going on in the world right now, and I think there are concerns about supply chain, and with that, adulteration and contamination and issues like that might affect the safety of finished goods or the ingredients coming into your facility. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about how your in-house testing helps to ensure that those types of issues don't enter the Now product line.
As you mentioned, adulteration is a widespread industry issue, especially when it comes to botanical ingredients. So our in-house labs and the testing that we can perform in-house allows us to, number one, detect the economic adulteration, and that could be some fillers, some synthetic substitutes, to make sure that the ingredients that we're getting are clean. We can also identify microbial contamination and heavy metals before the ingredients is used to make the finished product. But majority of what we do and what we are capable of doing is to verify the potency and the purity to ensure the label accuracy. So with having that direct control, we can prevent quality issues before they become risks.
So you talked through some of those challenges. I mean, quality issues for sure. Are there any other challenges that labs face in just maintaining these high, rigorous standards that you've set? Can you talk through some of those challenges and how Now really works to deal with those?
And we have plenty of challenges, especially now. But a couple to mention, uh, definitely regulatory challenges, especially when it comes to limits on contaminants. For example, pesticide residue contaminants, heavy metal contaminants. Those regulations change very frequently, not only domestically, but also internationally. And when we're talking about regulatory challenges, we're also talking about upper limits of dietary ingredients. For example, the upper limits of dietary ingredients for US are different than in Canada. So making sure that we can meet those regulatory requirements, that's one of the challenges. The second one that I can think of would be supply chain variability. The market is very hungry. There's still a lot of demand for dietary ingredients, and that comes with natural risk of supply chain and the risks that are associated with sourcing at high volume. So we enforce strict raw material sourcing agreements with our vendors, and we also audit our suppliers to make sure that all the raw materials that we source meet our quality requirements. And of course, cost versus quality. Quality is expensive, and everyone knows that. But while brands cut some corners, we view quality as a long-term investment. And by prioritizing testing and transparency and supplier accountability, we maintain our industry leading standards.
Great, great. There's a lot of focus on, and for all the reasons you just mentioned, on in-house testing it now. And I'm wondering, can you put that in perspective compared to third-party testing?
I don't want to discredit the third-party capabilities, and we still partner and work with third-party labs. But the advantage of having in-house laboratories is really overweighs the cost, really. We are capable of getting faster turnaround times. The real-time analysis prevents any delays. We are able to control that. We have a deeper insight into the flexibility of our method choices. So for example, if we're dealing with material that is difficult to analyze, there's a matrix that maybe we are not familiar with. We have the technology and the knowledge in-house to be able to investigate some potential issues before they become issues in a testing laboratory. And we also have a greater control over standards that we set for ourselves. We enforce our own rigorous standards when it comes to quality, and we can't really get that from a third party laboratory. And I mentioned before, we validate our own methods to make sure that they are fit for purpose and matrix specific, because dietary supplements and dietary ingredients are by far the most difficult matrices to perform analytical testing on.
You're talking about all these quality measures that you take, and as we know, not everyone goes through the trouble. Lots of bad actors out there. And one of the great things now does, and we actually spotlighted the company along with other industry initiatives in our Person of the Year feature a few years ago for the quality control and industry self-policing that you're doing on Amazon. Can you talk to us a little bit about that, the need for it and why now has kind of taken this whole thing on?
It's been a few years, but when we noticed, I think it was about 2018, maybe 2019, I don't remember precisely, we've noticed that the supplement sales online surged. And we also noticed some inconsistencies when it comes to product quality. There was a surge of lesser-known brands providing supplements that are similar to ours at a questionable price. So Dan Richard was the originator of this initiative, and he started noticing some discrepancies that are associated with some brands that are appearing on Amazon. It created a competition with the space and also price for us and other known brands. So we started questioning the quality of those products that were appearing on Amazon. And what we've learned, many supplements lacked potency, they contained contaminants, or were mislabeled. So this whole initiative was really born to protect the customers and be the advocates for the industry to set higher standards and maybe advocate for better enforcement from the FDA. So our first round of testing included CoQ10 and SAMe, and that first report, if I remember correctly, was published in February of 2022. And since then, we conducted at least 15 studies, and they have been published and are publicly available.
Excellent. I'm wondering, as you conduct these tests and you decide which categories to focus on next, can you walk us through some of those steps? You know, how do you determine which direction to go next, and what are some of the steps you take to actually validate some of those, or to test some of those other brands and report on those?
So we're looking at the price. Does it make sense to sell a product at that price? And remember, Now is a value brand, so we understand how much we have to invest in order to make a certain product. And if somebody is offering a similar product at a substantially lower price, that is a red flag. So often Dan identifies those potentials, and we have a conversation about whether this makes sense, or is this a potential for adulteration or contamination. And then those products are blindly purchased on Amazon, and we perform testing in-house. So we test those products in-house, but we also use third-party verification. So we partner with some contract laboratories, and then we compile those results and publish them, share for transparency purposes.
So we've been reporting on them each as they come out, and there have been some doozies. I mean, you found some pretty alarming stuff. Can you spotlight maybe some of the most concerning findings? You know, anything that jumps out to you is like, I just can't even believe this is going on out there.
I think most of the reports, and I think there was only one that was okay-ish. Most reports highlight the same issue where products are severely underdosed. And some contain less than 50% of the labeled active ingredient, which is concerning because if those products are sold to consumers that trust those brands, clearly they're not getting the potency that they are paying for. We have spotted some deceitful labeling where brands want to make the impression of the potency of a product that they sell for marketing purposes. But when we test, or when we even look at the label, there are a lot of red flags that come up. Contamination with heavy metals, specifically in the turmeric study, that was a concern, but I would say the underdosed product would be number one finding that really we were able to see that throughout all the studies that we've performed.
You know, I find it interesting that you mention most of the studies come back with results that are subpar. And so given that, you know, I'm wondering what the reaction has been from Amazon or regulators. Has there been one? It seems like this would be alarming on both of their parts.
You would think so. And Amazon has made some adjustments since we started publishing those reports. They now require third-party testing on certain supplements, but their enforcement still remains inconsistent. The regulators, including the FDA, they acknowledge these concerns, but they currently lack direct oversight of online marketplace. So in light of that, it is very important that we continue leading these transparency efforts to highlight the issue and maybe encourage enforcement of the regulations that are currently in place.
I think one thing that I remember Dan Richer, when we had the article, was that you're not really looking at brands that are sold primarily in the brick and mortar independent retailers. As you said, you're going for brands that already have these red flag issues, and then you're exploring them. So I think that says something, for the independent retailers who are kind of doing their due diligence on what they're putting on the shelves versus what you might find in kind of like a Wild West online kind of situation. But how has the industry responded, kind of given that, kind of knowing that that's the focus? What have you gotten from, fellow brands and other industry members in terms of what you've been finding and just the initiative that you've taken on overall?
For the most part, applaud. Many industry members have applauded us for being this bold and candid and highlighting the issue. And like I said, the reputable brands, they have largely supported our initiative and recognized the need for higher standards. However, there are some companies that resist scrutiny and they highlight gaps in the enforcement without the willingness to contribute to the change. Our work has definitely sparked some discussions on stronger quality control measures for e-commerce supplements. So I'm hoping that this work and this initiative is not going to be for naught. And eventually, something is going to come out of it, even if it's only to educate the consumer, which I think it's extremely important for consumers to understand the brand, to know the brand, and to trust the brand they're buying from.
Yeah, so it sounds like, like you said, mostly positive on, from the industry side. And it sounds like, as you said, there are some initiatives that you see taking place. So I might put you in on the hot seat just a little bit and just ask, what do you see then coming down if this all continues to go on in terms of you calling out other brands online and other ingredients online? What do you hope that looks like in 5 years, realistically, for the industry? Is now still the kind of the pillar holding people's feet to the fire when they're putting out subpar products, or do you hope that the industry evolves, the regulatory industry evolves and kind of takes that helm from you at some point?
I think it already started. There are other industry members who have come forth willing to do the same thing. So we are gaining more support, but also industries who are willing to step outside of their comfort zone, if you will, and join this initiative. Clearly, the regulators have no intentions of enforcing the law, so someone has to. And even if it comes to litigations and that process, we are also open to pursuing it against some of the companies that have been putting a dark mark on our industry's name.
So for the brands that are, listening, they want to do the right thing, What are some of the lessons you've learned, maybe either through the Amazon testing or just through your own processes that you go through at now? Like, so for brands committed to quality, some lessons or some key takeaways that you would suggest in terms of helping them avoid any flubs.
Don't be afraid of quality, right? Invest in robust testing. Cutting corners on quality is not sustainable, right? It just serves you for a moment, but that investment pays off over time. Be transparent. Consumers trust brands that are open, vocal, share their results, and are open to feedback as well. I talked a little bit earlier about vendors. Hold your suppliers accountable, right? Adulteration often starts at the source. The raw material is usually the source of adulteration. So build productive, bi-directional relationship with your vendors. Know your vendors, know where the ingredient is coming from, and hold them accountable when issues happen. And really long-term success in this industry requires a commitment, and that is a commitment towards safety, quality, efficacy, and I talked about trust.
Great. So if we turn this for a moment to the retailer side of things, independent natural products retailers, which I know now has had just a long-term commitment to supporting over the life of the company, what can they take from these Amazon findings and use to support the overall industry from their perspective?
They can certainly highlight the risks that are associated with buying from unverified supplement makers from online sources. They can make the customers aware of what comes with what I call opportunistic purchases. They can educate customers on the importance of knowing the brand, learning about the brand before they purchase the product. It's really important that the customer knows about the brand reputation and establishes the trust towards quality brands as opposed to, again, the opportunistic buy. They can also focus on promoting products from companies that emphasize quality, that invest in quality, and have the brand reputation that is trustworthy. And really, when they emphasize these points, the retailers can reinforce the value of shopping from trusted sources. So that goes back again to the consumer education part, which is very, very important.
I think you basically just answered my next question, which was just going to be like, given your investment in transparency, in the quality control, but also knowing like these are price sensitive times, it's a price sensitive market. I was going to ask how you kind of communicate that to retailers, to other brands and industry partners, putting in that extra effort. But I think you just drove home all the reasons why that's so important. So, on that note, any other final takeaways you want to leave us with? Any points we didn't cover that really people should know about?
Maybe one last thing. It's really worth mentioning that the supplement industry is evolving. And it's also important to remember that quality should always come first. And now remains committed to the scientific rigor and the transparency and the consumer trust. And we also encourage consumers and brands and regulators to work together in raising industry standards, because everyone deserves safe, effective, and high quality supplements.
Absolutely. Hear to that. All right, Todd, did you have any other questions you want to throw at Katie?
No, I think just a final thought on, as far as takeaways go, I can remember a time, it wasn't that long ago, where the industry, I think a lot of the industry had an attitude of, okay, there are always these bad actors, and if we call attention to them, then it might look make the whole supplement industry look bad. And so we shouldn't necessarily do that, just kind of use back channels. And I just, long term, I don't think that works. And I don't think anyone else really thinks it works. And so it's cool to see, while there have been advocates in the industry that have stepped up and kind of called out some bad actors, it's just so great to see one of the major brands in the industry really do things, taking steps that require investment, that really put put the whole idea in perspective and take action. And I think we need more of that, because otherwise those bad actors just aren't going away. So just, thanks for doing that. I think it's just a really cool initiative.
Our pleasure.
All right. Well, Katie, thank you for joining us. And Whole Foods Magazine will continue to keep our readers updated on everything you have going on, coming out of now. And we really appreciate the time to give us this clearer sense of the whole issue and what's being done about it. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.